Hi everybody, it's Mrs. Carey. Here to read to you a little more holes today. But before I do, I want to shout out to my state of New Jersey friends. Of course, I miss my students and my teacher friends and all the families from my school, but I want to shout out all the people that live in New Jersey because we love you so much because I love the state that I live in. But let's get back to the story. Yesterday, we left off where we heard about how Stanley was arrested. So now we're going to read chapter 7 and we're going to find out more about the camp. The shovel felt heavy in Stanley's soft, fleshy hands. He tried to jam it into the earth, but the blade banged against the ground and bounced off without making a dent. The vibrations ran up the shaft of the shovel and into Stanley's wrists, making his bones rattle. It was still dark. The only light came from the moon and the stars, more stars than Stanley had ever seen before. It seemed he had only just got into sleep when Mr. Pendanski came in and woke everybody up. Using all his might, he brought the shovel back down onto the dry lake bed. The force stung his hands but made no impression on the earth. He wondered if he had a defective shovel. He glanced at Zero, about 15 feet away, who scooped out a shovel full of dirt and dumped it on a pile that was already almost a foot tall. For breakfast, they'd been served some kind of lukewarm cereal. The best part was the orange juice. They each got a pint carton. The cereal actually didn't taste too bad, but it had smelled just like his cow. That sounds disgusting. Then they filled their canteens, got their shovels, and were marched out across the lake. Each group was assigned a different area. The shovels were kept in a shed near the showers. They all looked the same to Stanley, although X-Ray had his own special shovel, which no one else was allowed to use. X-Ray claimed it was shorter than the others, but if it was only by a fraction of an inch. The shovels were 5 feet long from the tip of the steel blade to the end of the wooden shaft. Stanley's hole would have to be as deep as his shovel, and he'd have to be able to lay the shovel flat across the bottom of it in any direction. That was why X-Ray wanted the shortest shovel. The lake was so full of holes and mounds that it reminded Stanley of pictures he'd seen of the moon. If you find anything interesting or unusual, Mr. Pendanski had told him, you should report it to either me or to Mr. Sir. When we come around with the water truck. If the warden likes what you found, you'll get the rest of the day off. What are we supposed to be looking for? Stanley asked him. You're not looking for anything. You're just digging to build character. It's just if you find anything, the warden would like to know about it. He glanced helplessly at his shovel. It wasn't defective. He was defective. He noticed a thin crack in the ground. He placed the point of the shovel on top of it, then jumped on the back end of the blade with both feet. The shovel sank a few inches into the packed earth. He smiled. For once in his life, it had paid to be overweight. He leaned on the shaft and pried up his first shovelful of dirt, then dumped it off to the side. Only 10 million more to go, he thought, then placed the shovel back in the crack and jumped on it again. He unearthed several shovelfuls of dirt in this manner before it occurred to him that he was dumping his dirt within the perimeter of his hole. He laid his shovel flat on the ground and marked where the edge of his hole would be. 5 feet was awfully wide. He moved the dirt he'd already dug up out past the mark. He took a drink from his canteen. 5 feet would be awfully deep, too. The digging got easier after a while. The ground was harder at the surface, where the sun had baked a crust about 8 inches deep. Beneath that, the earth was looser. But by the time Stanley broke past the crust, a blister had formed in the middle of his right thumb, and it hurt to hold the shovel. You can only imagine how much it hurt, right, boys and girls? Stanley's great-great-grandfather was named Elia Yelnats. He was born in Latvia. When he was 15 years old, he fell in love with Myra Menke. He didn't know he was Stanley's great-great-grandfather. Myra Menke was 14. She would turn 15 in 2 months, at which time her father had decided she should be married. Elia went to her father to ask for her hand, but so did Igor Barkov, the pig farmer. Igor was 57 years old. He had a red nose and fat, puffy cheeks. "I will trade you my fattest pig for your daughter," Igor offered. "And what have you got?" Myra's father asked Elia. "A heart full of love," said Elia. "I'd rather have a fat pig," said Myra's father. Desperate, Elia went to see Madame Zeroni, an old Egyptian woman who lived on the edge of town. He had become friends with her, though she was quite a bit older than him. She was even older than Igor Barkov. The other boys of the village liked to mud wrestle. Elia preferred visiting Madame Zeroni and listened to her many stories. Madame Zeroni had dark skin and a very wide mouth. When she looked at you, her eyes seemed to expand, and you felt like she was looking right through you. "Elia, what's wrong?" she asked. Before he even told her, he was upset. She was sitting in a homemade wheelchair. She had no left foot. Her legs stopped at the ankle. "I'm in love with Myra Menke," Elia confessed, "but Igor Barkov has offered to trade his fattest pig for her. I cannot compete with that." "Good," said Madame Zeroni. "You're too young to get married. You've got your whole life ahead of you." "But I love Myra. Myra's head is empty as a flower pot, but she's beautiful. So is a flower pot. Can she push a plow? Can she milk a goat? No, she's too delicate. Can she have an intelligent conversation? No, she is silly and foolish. Will she take care of you when you are sick? No, she is spoiled and will only want to take care of her. So she is beautiful. So what? Patooey." Madame Zeroni spat on the dirt. She told Elia that he should go to America like her son. That's where the future lies, not with Myra Menke. But Elia would hear none of that. He was 15, and all he could see was Myra's shallow beauty. Madame Zeroni hated to see Elia so forlorn. Against her better judgment, she agreed to help. "It just so happens my sow gave birth to a litter of piglets yesterday," she said. "There is one little runt who won't suckle. You may have him. He would die anyway." Madame Zeroni led Elia around the back of her house where she kept the pigs. Elia took the tiny piglet, but he didn't see what good it would do him. It wasn't much bigger than a rat. "He'll grow," Madame Zeroni assured him. "Do you see the mountain on the edge of the forest?" "Yes," said Elia. "On the top of the mountain there is a stream where the water runs uphill. You must carry the piglet every day to the top of the mountain and let it drink from the stream. As it drinks, you are to sing to him." She taught Elia a special song to sing to the pig. "On the day of Myra's 15th birthday, you should carry the pig up the mountain for the last time, then take it directly to Myra's father. It will be fatter than any of Igor's pigs." "If it is that big and fat," said Elia, "how will I be able to carry it up the mountain?" "The piglet is not too heavy for you now, is it?" asked Madame Zeroni. "Of course not," said Elia. "Do you think it will be too heavy for you tomorrow?" "No," he said. "Every day you will carry the pig up the mountain, it will get a little bigger, but you will also get stronger." After you give the pig to Myra's father, I want you to do one more thing. Anything, said Elia. I want you to carry me up the mountain. I want to drink from the stream, and I want you to sing the song to me. Elia promised he would. Madame Zeroni warned that if he failed to do this, he and his descendants would be doomed for all of eternity. At the time, Elia thought nothing of the curse. He was just 15 years old, and an eternity didn't seem much longer than a week from Tuesday. Besides, he liked Madame Zeroni, and he would be glad to carry her up the mountain. He would have done it right there and then, but he wasn't strong enough yet. So with that, I'm going to stop here today, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.